start. The referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. News from halfway around the world. An update to a previous story we talked about. Former WBA super featherweight champion Hyun-Mi Choi's next scheduled fight.
After having been injured last year and being labeled a champion in recess.
And the nature of what was supposed to be Hyun-Mi Choi's injury is still a mystery to me. Hyun-Mi Choi, who was under orders to unify titles with Alicia Baumgartner.
They can do that?
They did. They ordered Hyun-Mi Choi to unify titles with Alicia for what would have been the undisputed crown. As a result, Hyun-Mi Choi chose to sit that one out.
The title was subsequently vacated and Elham Mekhaled ended up standing in her place.
Hyun-Mi Choi, who was last in action in October of last year, it appears that her status as a champion in recess, the recess part of it, lasted less than 12 months, just long enough for her to skip out on fighting Alicia, but book herself a fight with someone else.
Another fight.
She posted this earlier today, a caption that reads, "The whole process has been completed. I'll come back with a good fight tomorrow." And the fight she's talking about is a fight with former WBO lightweight champion of Argentina, Maria Maderna. You might be familiar with that name. Maria Maderna was the first champion that Amanda Serrano beat.
Amanda won her first alphabet title, the WBO title, in the women's lightweight division opposite Maria Maderna.
A then champion, now journeywoman. Many years later and many fights, a journeywoman with losses in the double digits and a tune-up fight for Hyun-Mi Choi,
who as a champion in recess had the option of facing Alicia Baumgartner straight away.
That is the privilege a champion in recess is afforded, that as soon as they're ready to and as soon as they're back, they can fight for the title that they relinquished. They can fight for the title that they forfeited. Interesting tidbits. You will notice the poster in the background.
The fight's going down this weekend.
Don't think it's an accident that Hyun-Mi Choi appears to be fighting the same weekend as Alicia Baumgartner, the super featherweight division's undisputed champion, and you will notice in the poster
it says WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO.
I know they're not billing Hyun-Mi Choi versus Maria Maderna as an undisputed title fight for all of those aforementioned titles by way of those aforementioned organizations. The only inference I can make is that they might be billing this as a segue to the undisputed title fight, a segue to the winner of Baumgartner versus Lenardatu.
Maybe that's what they're doing, because Choi versus Maderna is not an undisputed title fight of any kind at any weight.
They're not fighting for undisputed, so in spite of the language barrier, I can only deduce that if they're mentioning those alphabet organizations, it's because they're billing this fight as a segue to undisputed.
It's got to be it.
Hyun-Mi Choi is still an unbeaten fighter here today, sporting a professional record of 20 wins with no losses and 1 draw.
5 knockouts.
She's always been statuesque for the weight, statuesque for 130 pounds. I don't get the sense that this fight she's about to have this weekend is a 130-pound contest.
It's not registered on BoxRec, so we don't know the contracted weight of the match. Though given that she's fighting Maria Maderna.
Maria, who many years ago might have campaigned as a lightweight. In recent memory, in recent years, she's been campaigning in between junior middle and welter, 154 to 147.
3 divisions north of 130.
I don't think this fight between her and Hyun-Mi Choi is being fought at a contracted weight of 130 pounds, though it might be Hyun-Mi Choi's intention, if she wins, to continue to make her way south back to super featherweight. Is she finally ready to bite the bullet? Is she finally ready to fight Alicia Baumgartner? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like she's moved heaven and earth to avoid that fight. Now, she's left with very little choice, very little options.
I half expected her to wait for Alicia to move up in weight, wait for the titles to go vacant, so that she could then pick one up.
Once Alicia is gone, Hyun-Mi Choi is back ahead of schedule, at least back sooner than I thought she would be.
And on the same schedule as Alicia. They're both going to be fighting in different parts of the world on the same weekend if they both win.
Because they're both on the same schedule, you could, at least in theory, schedule a fight between them for the fall or winter months.
Hyun-Mi Choi's an offensively minded fighter. She's tall for the weight and long for the weight, but she's a mid-range to inside fighter with leaky defense, very leaky.
I don't give her any kind of odds to beat Alicia Baumgartner if they do fight, and I'll go as far as saying that it's not a foregone conclusion that she beats Maria this weekend. It's not a foregone conclusion that she beats Maria Maderna, who might be a journeywoman, but sometimes those journeywomen, they can surprise you.
Argentinian fighters are tough.
Notoriously tough and stubborn fighters.
Does Hyun-Mi Choi win this weekend? And if she does, what does she intend to do after that? Does she want to fight Alicia now?
What about Alicia? What if Alicia wins this weekend? Does she want to fight her? Does she want to give her the time of day?
Oh, I think she knocks out Hyun-Mi Choi. I do.
But I also think that if she can find something better to do, she will.
Just a few things to think about ahead of this weekend's action. It appears that Hyun-Mi Choi is back.
In men's super middleweight news, reigning middleweight champion, WBC champion Jermall Charlo, 2 years removed from the sport, says, after Canelo fights my brother, he has to fight me.
Further indication that should Jermall return to the sport of boxing, he's not going to return as a middleweight, having not made that weight in years.
Why doesn't the WBC just strip him now? What are they waiting for? Initially, it was thought that Jermall would be the one fighting Canelo Alvarez. As it turns out, it will be his brother, Jermell. And the internet was flipped upside down as media pundits and fans began giving their thoughts on how their clash would play out. Seeing how Jermell currently holds every major title at 154, many were flummoxed at his decision to move up 2 full weight classes. Jermall, however, wasn't taken by surprise. In fact, according to the truculent middleweight champion, he gave his twin brother his blessings. I gave the fight to my brother, and I'm still gonna fight Canelo, said Charlo recently on Instagram. No matter the outcome, Alvarez has 2 fights remaining on his PBC deal. Of course, the usual suspects have emerged as his upcoming challengers.
We talked about that, how he might end up fighting both brothers.
And how Canelo, throughout his career, seems to have an affinity for beating up guys' brothers. He beat up Ricky Hatton's brother, Matthew Hatton. He beat both the Cotto brothers. He beat both Liam Smith and Callum Smith.
He wants to beat up the Charlos.
Though among his upcoming challengers, names that seem to be in the hat, David Benavidez, the WBC's interim champion, David Morrell, the WBA's regular champion, and even Errol Spence Jr., the current unified champion at welterweight, have all expressed interest in facing Alvarez for his undisputed super middleweight throne. Their wishes, ultimately, are practically extraneous. According to Charlo, it doesn't matter who calls Alvarez out. They won't be given the chance to meet the Mexican star in the immediate future. In short, Charlo believes that it's a smart idea for everyone else to grab a ticket and head to the back of the line behind him.
Well, on the premise that Jermall Charlo is next, after Jermell.
Canelo's fight with Jermell is set to go down in September, and he won't return to action. He won't return likely until May of the following year, giving Jermall enough time to schedule a tune-up fight of some kind
so that he can get ready.
He said, I've got a contract signed with Canelo. After he fights my brother, he has to fight me. So we're gonna triple team that bitch.
What a fucking coward.
Fighters like Jermall, if you even want to call him that, athletes of this quote-unquote caliber, are hardly athletes at all. This desire that many of these fighters have to face Canelo Alvarez does not come from a competitive nature, the nature of sport.
A guy like Jermall, Demetrius,
Andrade, David Benavidez. The reason that these fighters seem so obsessed with fighting Canelo isn't necessarily because they wish to prove that they are better in fact, than he is. That's not why they keep name-dropping him. That's not why they can't shut the fuck up about him. The real reason they're after him is because he has the fan base that they don't have.
Which allows him to make the kind of money that they don't make.
And the best parallel that I can give you is that Jermall's relationship with the sport of boxing is not akin to the relationship that Kobe Bryant had with basketball or Wayne Gretzky with the NHL.
Tom Brady with the NFL.
Their obsession with being the best at what they do in their respective sport, is not a parallel for Jermall Charlo and his desire to face Canelo. The only reason he wants to fight Canelo is so that he can cash in on Canelo's fan base, because he ain't got one of his own. If he did,
Let me tell you something. If Canelo weren't worth the money that he's worth, but he was the same fighter with the same accolades, the same resume, these guys wouldn't want to fight him.
very few of these guys want to prove that they're better fighters than Canelo Alvarez. A good number of them just want to get paid to show up.
Like Jermell.
Who's going to be standing in his place. I think that's what separates them. I think that Jermell has proven that he is a more ambitious fighter than his twin brother, that they may be twins, but they're not the same person.
They ain't got the same drive.
Derek James, who trains Jermell Charlo, says that he won't make him pack on the pounds for Canelo. He wants him to be fast.
It's not a bad idea.
Derek James, Charlo's award-winning trainer, is in charge of both his training regimen and weight gain. All signs point to Alvarez having a bit of a size advantage. That sentiment, nevertheless, is quite all right with James. Ideally, James would rather his fighter come in well under the super middleweight limit. I don't believe in getting heavy, James told Fight Hub TV. I'll stay 163, 164. Bulking up and adding a bit of muscle is somewhat needed if Charlo's chin is to hold up to Alvarez, normally deleterious power. With that said, the pros of adding size don't tally enough when juxtaposed with the cons.
They're still saying Canelo has a size advantage.
In what way does Canelo have a size advantage over Jermell? Explain it. Make it make sense. Is Canelo a taller man than Jermell?
No.
Is he a longer man than Jermell?
No.
He doesn't have height over Jermell. He doesn't have reach over Jermell. I'd wager that between fights, their walk-around weight, Jermell walks around the same, if not heavier, than Canelo Alvarez, but people are still claiming that Jermell is the naturally smaller man, that Canelo will have a size advantage. I feel like he has more of an experience advantage than a size advantage, that he is acclimated to super middleweight.
That's what he's got on Jermell, that he's fought there before.
But he's not actually bigger than Jermell. He's not bigger in any way. He's not taller. He's not longer. He ain't got more wingspan. And between fights, they probably...
Jermell is 6 feet fucking tall. Between fights, he's probably heavier than Canelo. So where is Canelo the bigger man?
They can't quantify it. They can't explain it. Those are just mental gymnastics to take shots at Canelo Alvarez, because he's now doing what they thought he would never do. He's now fighting the guys they claimed he's been avoiding.
Which makes his boo birds look fucking stupid.
Stupid is as stupid does. At some point, James knows good and well that Charlo will have to stand and bang. But when the Houston native isn't planting his feet in the middle of the ring and trying to get respect, James is convinced that coming in a bit lighter will help Charlo in the long run. I want him to be fast. I want him to be athletic. I want him to be mobile.
The heavier you are, it's like you'll be lethargic, slower. You have to be faster.
I see the logic, and the logic is sound. I'll say it again. I think that Jermell can make things interesting in a way that Jermall couldn't, and I think that Jermell is a better boxer in terms of nuts and bolts than, say, a David Benavidez.
But in spite of what the boo birds are saying, Jermell can make things interesting. They're just infatuated with professional victimhood.
Well, he's looking for an angle to make the fighters they support out to be victims of some kind. When Jermell volunteered for this, he signed up for this.
Literally.
No matter how you want to spin it, he's not actually a smaller man than Canelo. He's a taller, longer fighter that walks around just as, if not heavier, than Canelo.
So why don't you cut the fucking crap already?
It's not dangerous for Ngannou
It's going to be the biggest event I've ever been involved in.
from a sporting point of view.
Of course. What, you're saying Ngannou's not a sportsman?
No,
Is he not the best? Is he not the best heavyweight in his combat sport?
From what I know, I don't watch UFC.
Well, no, do I? But
obviously
I've watched
he's the
it. I've been watching the tapes of him. Is he not good? Is he not in the Guinness Book of Records for being the
He is
hardest?
the hardest
Well, there
fight.
you go.
But-
This is massive.
But Frank,
Massive.
we're talking about the best heavyweight of our generation in
Yeah,
Tyson Fury.
I agree with that.
Against someone who's never boxed.
But let me ask you a question. So if it does all the numbers that are expected, what does that make it?
It makes it a big event.
That's all we need to know then, isn't it?
If Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn had struck a deal with Francis Ngannou, would you give them stick for it?
Are you going?
I will be covering it
Why's that?
because it would do good numbers for us.
And it's will it? Why would people want to watch
Massive
that?
numbers, of course.
Because it's a big event. There's a fight going on in Riyadh this year. In October, there's a fight going on, and they made it happen with Tyson.
Frank's justification for Tyson Fury, a sitting champion, Tyson Fury, a boxer, boxing someone that has never boxed, his only justification seems to be that it's going to make money, that it's a big event.
That's all he keeps saying.
By that logic, by that reckoning, almost anyone can whore themselves out to this kind of a circus fight, this kind of a novelty act.
But when a sitting champion does it, a reigning champion, it's particularly egregious, especially when he has a super fight of his own that he can have that would pay him a lot of money, but this is what he chooses to do.
I mean, by that reckoning, almost any champion in the sport can decide to whore themselves out to novelty acts and circus fights the same way that Tyson Fury is about to. And the real question here is, if it were Anthony Joshua whoring himself out to some MMA fighter, some Francis Ngannou kind of fight, that kind of show, what would Frank say? You know what he'd say. He'd trash the event, he'd trash Joshua for doing it, but he expects all of us to go along with this.
I don't know how Tyson Fury still has fans. I don't know how he still has supporters. Alex Krasiuk characterizes all of this as somewhat of a betrayal, that he's betraying his fans, disrespecting them by not giving them the fight that they want to see.
I have to agree. Not only are they disrespecting Fury's supporters, Frank Warren is insulting their intelligence, implying that Francis Ngannou and his exploits in the octagon have fuck all to do with the boxing ring. The man's not a boxer.
Do you think I want to see baseball players play football?
Basketball players play soccer. Soccer players play baseball. Do you think I want to see that? So do you think I want to see an MMA fighter in a boxing ring with a championship-level boxer, a reigning champion?
No, I don't want to see that.
The hope is that they will attract enough casual observers, enough of a casual audience, that they can string them along with this. Tyson Fury's been stringing his supporters along for a while now. The conversation we're having now is the same conversation that we were having months ago when he picked Derek Chisora.
Derek, of all people, that in today's heavyweight landscape, why would you voluntarily fight a guy that you've already beaten 2 times?
Why?
The last time you made him quit on his stool.
You couldn't find somebody better than that guy? And that same question is in play here and now. You couldn't find someone better to keep busy with than Francis Ngannou en route to the Usyk fight? Or is it that you were never en route to that fight?
It was never about keeping busy.
So it looks to me. And the silver lining supposed to be, at least according to Frank Warren, that it's a big event, that they all get to make a lot of money.
I'm not getting a slice of that money, so what's that mean to me?
To the boxing fan, what is the appeal of this supposed to be? We already know that Tyson Fury's a better boxer than Francis Ngannou. What's supposed to make us watch?
Well, this isn't for us.
You don't do these kinds of shows for your hardcore boxing fan. You do this for people that don't know any better.
I think Fury's done catering to boxing fans.